Well, hi again, Beaver Nation, from the beautiful OSU Basketball Practice Center. It's my pleasure to welcome to Beaver Nation officially new assistant coach for Wayne Tinkle, Gregg Gottlieb. Coach Gottlieb, welcome to Oregon State. Great to have you here. Since time is short, if you could give us the nutshell version, how it all came about.
A lot of things happen with timing, and the timing was perfect for me. When Coach Tinkle was involved with the job, I think he was looking to hire some people that had experience in the league. I just finished my 7th year at Cal, so I've got some experience in the league. We've known each other through the recruiting circles, a little bit from recruiting his son, Trace, and some from just overall being in the business of basketball. So when the opportunity came for him at Oregon State, he reached out and said, hey, would this be something you might be interested in? And, it might be a good fit. We got a chance to talk a little bit. And, the thing that I really like is I like a lot of his core philosophies of how he's going to be, how he coaches the team and the kind of program we're going to have here.
And the core philosophies, even beyond just X's and O's of basketball. You were telling me earlier off mic and off camera that there's a core that goes back deep to the Montana roots and the way Coach Montgomery conducted himself in his program. Tell me a little bit about the core of that matches up with you.
Well, I think, you win with people. I think Mike's background of being at Montana and being at Stanford, you learn, that really how important character is as something you got to assess. And looking forward for what we're trying to attract here, character's got to be important. And we want guys that want to be here, want to earn a degree, and want to get better and desire. And I've seen that already with some of the guys, young guys we got here, where it's 12 o'clock. We've had a handful of guys that were in here shooting, working on their game on their own, and I think that's critical.
Gregg, your bio has a little note that I know will resonate with Beaver Nation, in that your father, longtime basketball coach, actually spent some time under the late, great Ralph Miller, for whom the court is named. 1983-84 season, the Beavers won the Pac-12. Has your dad talked to you much about what Ralph was like to work under in that 1 year that he spent on this campus?
Well, not just my dad, but even Mike Montgomery. Some of the things we actually did at Cal, we ran some of the high post offense, and he talked about that was the Ralph Miller Oregon State offense, and I think the fact that his legacy is still on with a lot of coaches around the country running some of the things that he did and had a lot of success with. So, but as far as my dad goes, I think that's pretty, for me, that's a pretty special thing to, follow in your dad's footsteps.
Tell me about your dad as a coach. I mean, you've had obviously other influences that have worked for some great coaches as an assistant, but your dad sounds like your first coach from the beginning and,
right,
and has mentored you. Tell us a little bit about that relationship.
That's been a really neat thing for me, especially working for some of these other coaches, and you learn the game a certain way, and I learned it from my dad. So that's where, again, I think I'm looking at some of the things Coach Tinkle and even Coach Montgomery did that I saw a parallel in terms of how, teaching kids how to win, demanding guys, give you their all, getting the most out of kids, and then making an impact on kids' lives. And I think that's one of the things I saw from my dad. Not just coaching in college. When he was a coach, he always had kids over the house and things like that, but moving forward as he was an AAU coach and how much he did for kids. And so, I've tried to mimic that.
In terms of basketball and your approach and what your job will be under Coach Tinkle, has that been decided yet in terms of how practices are conducted and a specialty? It's my understanding you work with post players at Cal for the most part. Do you know what your marching orders will be here?
Well, I think right now it's kind of all hands on deck. We got a lot of things to sort out a little bit. And I did the last couple of years work with the post guys, but I've worked with, even at Cal early on, we worked with the perimeter guys, and then we just kind of shuffled a little bit. Sometimes change is good. Guys want to hear a different voice, maybe a little tweak on perspectives. I kind of try and envision myself as a future head coach. So I want to be able to be good in all areas. This is going to be my 20th year as an assistant coach in Division I. So, I think that there's a lot of different perspectives that I have. The fact that I've worked for 5 other coaches, that gives maybe a little bit different tweak on things. Hey, this might be a different way to approach things. There's a lot of different ways to do things. We got a great staff, really. Coaches putting together a good group, a lot of experience. So it's going to be fun.
You come with a strong endorsement from Mike Montgomery as well as Steve Fisher at San Diego State. What were the things you've taken from your time with Steve?
You know what? Steve is an unbelievable motivator of men, and the way he handles people, really just even how you treat people on a daily basis. And I think that's been critical for me in my development as a coach, is understanding that. And you don't have to get everything by yelling all the time. He was an excellent recruiter. He's a great practice and game coach. At the right time, he always seemed to know what to say. And some of it was just a little bit thinking before you speak. And probably the thing that always I've carried with me is every practice he always had a thought of the day, and it would apply somehow to our team. And it's amazing how now in my life something will happen and I'll think of one of those thoughts of the day and how it applies. And so those are the kind of things that are pretty cool that when you look back and see, he obviously had a pretty strong impact on me.
Greg, what about what you've observed as an assistant at Cal, first under Ben Braun and then in the whole Mike Montgomery era at Cal, when you've made trips here? I mean, the Beavers had some good games against you and beat you a few times along the way. But what is your vision of what, sitting in this beautiful basketball practice center, and when you go on the recruiting trail with a message about Oregon State basketball that you are now a part of?
Well, I think the big thing is we got to change perception. And, I don't think people truly realize the capital improvements right here. If you look around, we're in an unbelievable building, really. I don't know that anyone in our league has as nice a building as this practice facility. And yesterday I was over in the brand new academic center. And I mean, not only is it brand new, but it's so well thought out. And there's so many different neat things like that. The resources here are really abundant. The weight room is really spectacular. And we got a great strength coach. He's got NBA experience. The community aspect. You run into all the coaches and other athletes because everything's right here in the one footprint. And I think those are things that you just got to get kids up here to see for themselves.
And in terms of that, the recruiting approach and philosophy, I visited with Coach Tinkle about the diamonds in the rough approach and finding people that were under the radar. It's a methodology that's worked for Mike Riley in football, Pat Casey in baseball, and I assume that you've got to go out and put in the time and work and find the right fit. It's not always the 4 or 5 star guys per se. You won't shy away from those, I'm sure. But what about the overall approach you'll use here in recruiting?
Well, I think we got to find guys that fit what we want to do, and we got to find guys that want to be here. I look at what we've done in the past, other places I've been. We talked off the air about Jorge Gutierrez, and really no one in the Pac-12 was recruiting Jorge, but we knew he was going to be a great fit, and he turned out to be Pac-12 Player of the Year. And Alan Crabb was the same way, and he had a great career for us at Cal. So I think looking forward, those are the kind of things we got to do. We got to identify kids that want to be here and make good decisions on the kids that want to come.
You come from a great basketball family. We've mentioned your father, longtime coach, spent some time here. And Doug is a media star. Your younger brother, 4 years, you're a junior. How competitive were you guys growing up? 4 years is a pretty big difference, but
yeah.
If you could for a moment, be the big brother, how's he doing in this whole media world as far as you're concerned?
I think he's doing spectacular. We're best friends. We talk all the time, almost every day. I think he thinks he'd be a great coach. I'm not sure if he totally understands
all that it
entails. Entails, or whether he'd actually really want the job once he, But I think he's done a spectacular job, and it's, again, I think all that stuff is a reflection on my dad. Mm-hmm. So, basketball is a big part of our family. So we're really proud of that.
And finally, Greg, what you're doing now day to day, you've already touched on it a little bit with kids coming in to shoot here and so on, but how much time are you able to spend with the players? What are you and Coach Rupp and Coach Tinkle and everybody else involved with right now going forward in terms of what you're working on with the players that are still in the program?
Well, right now we're just trying to build relationships with them. They're in finals week right now, so we're not allowed to work with them by NCAA rules. But I tried to have individual meetings with all the kids that are here, and then try and get on the phone with our future kids that are coming and try and build a relationship. But again, I think if you get to know them, they know you care about them, they'll run through a wall for you.